Hi, everyone. I'm Yaakov Horowitz. Welcome to our live. A fascinating topic, and I hope you find it really helpful. It's called the Pesach Seder and your ADHD child. Like so many other topics, this is an interface between religious practice, things that are very important to us, and life, such as having an ADHD child. We're going to be joined by Dr. Sarah Markowitz, who is an absolute superstar in this space. She wrote an amazing book. You'll hear all about it. I'm going to invite her to join us, and then that you'll benefit from her wisdom. Um, hey, Dr. Markowitz, how are you?
Shalom. Great. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. Okay, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. How are you, Doctor?
Thank God. I am very much appreciative to have this opportunity. And it's Erev Pesach, and there's a lot going on in the world. So Baruch Hashem, I say. That
Yeah.
says,
How many years ago was I in your community in Fairlawn? Probably
I
about 10.
I would say yes, except, and your impact is an indelible impact that we are forever grateful for. I was telling Elisheva as she was setting this up, I said, you don't even know. And Stuart and I said, wow, Yaakov Horowitz, I said, he's my Rebbe. Scanos, the impact that you have had, we are going to see Bezrat Hashem at our Seder. And I think other people also, I have to say, the wisdom that you have shared, the love, the understanding of every individual. Because 10 years ago we had the schluss of meeting you, so our own family Seder is that much fuller, and those of so many people in the community, and it's incredible to see Kanai Nahara with the next generation of children also. So
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor. You said Stuart Schnee. It's been, he sent me a copy of your book. I know he's your publicist.
uh,
I worked with him for years and years. He's just such a pleasure to work with. And he sent me a copy of your book, Kosher ADHD, and I read it cover to cover. It is such a masterful book. I hope I messaged you. I think I did. If I didn't, to consider this message. Um, Problem is, I read it on Shabbos. I don't always remember during the
I
week.
have that same, yeah.
It's
So thank God,
so
yeah, it's
spot on, and your partner in the book, Dr.
Dr.
Chesler.
Chesner. Wow.
Chesler, I visited his school. He had a school in Israel. Must have been 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote to me because I was writing and and speaking about ADHD. He invited me to come see his school, and I was so blown away. Doctor, I'm sure you may Hashem forgive me when I meet people who work in different spaces. Like, again, may Hashem forgive me. I say, get it or don't get it. Like I think to myself, to get it or not. And I was so blown away. I still remember the way he set up the students' cubbies, the the cubbies of the ADHD kids, rather than having just a space. He gave them different areas to be able to organize themselves. That was my first Shalom Aleichem. My first welcome to the school was looking at the way he set things up, and I said, "Oh my goodness, does this guy get it?"
He
And
really, really gets it.
so,
It's I mean, when he like approached me, I said, and I don't say no so much. Really, it's a wonderful midah sometimes, and but I knew I'm like I cannot write a book right now. Like Baruch Hashem, a family, a full time job. My husband's a rav in the shul. We have a whole community. And then he said, Sarah, you don't understand. There is a need in America, especially like there's so many kids. We're losing them in Yiddishkeit because we don't understand them. They're not succeeding at home. They're not succeeding in schools. And we have to do this. So of course he appealed to my sense of mission. And I say that my husband and I had been meeting with people. It's this time of year when a lot of people don't know what they're doing with their kids next year. The schools say, listen, we really try to. The teachers want to help, and they said, you need to find a different school. And we sat with people, and it breaks up a family, and they want to help. And okay, so Baruch Hashem, we were zocha, and I talk about my own ADHD because I say it's very difficult to talk about treating and helping children with ADHD without understanding how genetic,
Right.
the genetic components, because likely one or two of the parents have challenges with executive functioning, myself included, and so it makes all the recommended. Yeah, hi, right?
Charts.
It is
I
wonderful.
died off the charts. I mean, they I have a few years on you, doctor. So a generation before you grew up, it was nobody even knew what it was, and it was just it was just school. What you wrote in the book, I think in the introduction you wrote, is about the percentage of ADHD kids who abandon religion because it just doesn't work for them, because what you're asking a regular shachris, a regular davening in the morning is let's say 30 minutes on a short day for a boy with ADHD, and that's like a lifetime,
A
you know,
lifetime.
let alone a Pesach Seder, and may Hashem grant us both good health and time. I'd really love to do a few talks with you about this subject for parents overall, and really to talk about the importance of your book. But focusing on the
Yes,
Pesach Seder,
let's
we'll
go.
try one relatively short and really take it up after Yontif. But like, just think of the Pesach Seder, those number of hours that the average Seder goes, and how, like, it would be like asking the average adult to do 48 hours sitting straight in one place. So that I think the backdrop. I just want to tell you a personal anecdote. Someone I'm very close to, enormously successful adult, about 40 years old, everything, whatever one would hope for their kids or for themselves at his age in life. Successful, beautiful marriage, great kids. I I promise you, I'm not joking. I'm not. It sounds like I'm being melodramatic. He says, and I've seen, he has every sign of post traumatic stress when the Pesach Seder approaches. Just talking
Mm.
that makes him anxious because he's a rambunctious, spunky kid, and his parents, of course, didn't understand it a generation and a half ago, and it was such torture for him that he just can't relate to it. So in
That's the word that Dr. Chesner uses, is to think about like a torture chamber, right? Like meaning, and I'm like, that's such an intense word. So, but that's the experience when if you ask someone, right, like you have amazing ideas. If someone said to you, you don't have access to this, you got to sit quietly and be an accountant, or
exactly,
I say to anybody else who's joining live, right, take a bunch of pipes and build the pipes for this system, the building that I'm in. I want you to figure out all the bathroom structure and all that, and you don't know how to do this. The request, like there's so much pressure. The executive functions, the part of the brain that is being impacted or asked of, called upon as a Jew. So it's a lot. What we're saying is, we want someone who has time awareness, right? We want someone who's going to be organized. We want someone who could sit, who could attend, who could shift, whose brain is going all over the place to stay in one spot. And every single ask that you have that requires this type of executive functioning, everyone has their own profile. You're asking someone for something that is beyond what they're capable of. And then when you demand it, and then when you get disappointed that they can't do it, you would never ask someone in a wheelchair to walk up the stairs. Never. It would be so inappropriate. It doesn't mean that there's not a ramp, there's a way to get them there. But the question is, minus that ramp, how can we help people succeed? And really, there's a different understanding, but I would say like this: as much as you're saying your generation and my generation even didn't know what it was, as much as people say we know what it is, people don't fully understand it, and therefore everyone should be taking the time to fully understand what it really means, what a person has with ADHD type thing, so that we can begin to have real ideas and compassion and alter our perspective and expectations, not because we're giving up on people. They have the, Nebuch expectations, because we have to shift in order to help them succeed. So, okay, with that premise of each person who's showing up to the Seder is capable of succeeding, but under different. It has to be a different type of frame. So, what is the type of frame? We say, you know, people with ADHD have chaos in a lot of ways. They're all over the place. Yeah. So, Seder, Pesach is about Seder. So, how do we tap into what Hashem is giving us, the Seder, in order to actually help this person with ADHD succeed? But people who are not treated, just that point, who don't understand that what this is, and only found out later, the PTSD, the shame, the guilt, the depression, anxiety, all of that comes as a result of not really understanding that a person struggling with ADHD, a different brain makeup, has real ramifications. And therefore, the thought of Pesach, a Seder, a Shabbos table, could be, like you said, what it's like to help them. It's so unfair. Why are they losing their connection to Yiddishkeit?
Right.
It's not
Right.
fair.
So what would you say right now a parent would really, they have a rambunctious kid. In Yiddish, they used to call it a shivin when I was a kid, for someone who can't sit still. So what would you recommend that a parent structure? How can they structure the Seder um, before they get a chance to read your fantastic book, Kosher
Right.
AD?
Right.
Um, but
Yeah. So,
you recommend
right.
two pragmatic um,
Let's,
suggestions, and um, I really look forward to forwarding with
okay.
you.
Okay. So number one is they had to understand the Seder. We know multiple intelligences, right? This is multiple modalities. We talk about Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's one of the most experiential types of like things that Hashem gives us, right? So you have the telling of the story, but not everyone should be a darshan, has to speak. You have different modalities. You're eating. You could be acting out a story. Take time before the Seder. Think about each of your children, every grandchild, which is a lot. Planning is a lot, and for people who have issues of ADHD, planning is hard. So find the chavrusa, right? Say, oh, my friend, Rabbi, whatever, my friend down the street. Take 5 minutes, go walking outside, and say, what are my different kids? What can they need? How are they going to succeed? Do they like to sing? Do they like to help? Right? Sometimes then you want to get a little bit practical. It's not enough to just expect them to show up and like in this different way. Keep in mind, if you want to have times that they're going to shine, but then you also want to know, like, what does it mean? So do I have to modify my Seder? It should be a 10-minute Seder because this kid needs to fly through it. So no, so let's decide what you want them to show up for. You're also holding multiple children. I could have 10 kids in my family. What if I have the kid who really wants to stay at a long Seder and someone who doesn't? So how do you do that? It requires, like we like to call it the 5 Ps. It's not in the book, but as Dr. Chesler and I, we try and
It'll be in the next.
work.
It'll be.
Bezrat Hashem. That's how he helped us get through. He helped me do this book. He's like, the second edition. It's the only way you're going to be able to do it. 5 Ps, right? So you need perspective of like to have compassion and perspective. This is the child is dealing with this. If they could do better, they would do better. This is what they're able to do. We need to plan. This is what we are doing on your walk. You're going to go plan for what it is that this kid can do to be successful. What if it's the kid who's rambunctious, but what if it's the kid who is really checked out? And like you don't want to keep on prodding him, but you want him to find that moment, right? So you want to plan. Then you have to practice. You need to show him scaffolding. And this is I'm going to get into a few practical points. So you're gonna practice it, then you're gonna perform it, and then you're gonna praise. Okay? What do you mean practice it, perform it? They need to see if you want your kid to do some checking the lettuce before, you have to show them how. Honestly, these kids are not always, they don't know how to break things down. Exactly. You say, Sarah, can you take care of just clean, get the lettuce ready for me? One of my friends once said, she asked her son, get me an egg, like take an egg out for me. She was in the middle of making a cake and he took an egg and he put it in a cup. And really what she meant was like, get an egg, open it up, put it in the cup, right? We need to show them scaffolding, show it to them. It's part of you have to build in that this is what is needed. But it's not enough. You have to either show them or we call it a WOMAC, a working memory activation cue. They need charts up all the time. I love my whiteboard. Oh my God. If it wasn't, thank God. And you have to put them in the right place and reminders. People with executive functioning challenges, it's hard to one, no, you have an idea of what you want them to do, and they don't always know the steps, and you can't remember to do it, and all these different things. We don't have time for it now. You're gonna read the book, but you got to put a list up and then remind them to look at it and praise them, not because, oh, Nebuch, that's they need my praise. You get paid for a job. That's what makes you push through like hard times. They want to get activated. They want to be motivated. They need help to do it. So Hashem in his infinite wisdom has helped the Rabbanim and all these Siddurim that you would give something for the Afikomen, but it's brilliant. It's set up. If a kid needs a break in the middle, you're going to say, now you're going to go be busy with the Afikomen. You're going to have this reward. You're going to give small prizes throughout. They are going to need it. You're going to engage them. And this is going to help them baby steps. Think about what they can do. Give them cues so that they could do it. And don't have to bother them every minute of the day. If they and you can show them what it is that they're allowed to do, and then remind them, prepare with them to get ready to really the times that you want them to come back. They might need a prompt. Give them a 10-minute
And it might
warning.
be, let's say, that they'll find the Dayenu song more meaningful than the Dvar Torah, and that includes adults. That includes,
Right?
you know, it's all part of it. And in the planning, I think a lot of it is even planning your room out. In other words, make a play corner and prepare some toys there, and tell your the ADHD son or daughter or granddaughter, whatever, that sweetheart, thank you so much. You participate. Come on back. We're singing something. Go back. Then go back and give them enough things to do so that they won't disturb the adults. Like you said, you want to have a long Seder. Other children want to participate. So make something there, a space that your ADHD son or daughter can go hang out there, and you're able to call them back when they're ready for it. And if you want to call them back, it might be helpful to give them a 2-minute warning.
Yes, I was just going to say that because right transitioning can be very difficult for a child. They need to be prepared. They also have no sense of time.
Right.
So if you say come in 2 minutes,
Exactly.
don't expect them to just come. Like 2 minutes is like come in 12 hours or come
Fine.
right now. Like they don't know. So in the absence, I don't think people are going to have time to learn this whole way of you have a clock and learn about just it's worth the investment. As if you want to put into your Seder, you have the 15 simanim. So if you have the part of the Dayenu, now you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put a reminder in my Haggadah. Go remind these kids that I'm going to need you in 3 minutes. Then I'm going to at the next part. Okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, okay, now we're ready to come. Is everybody ready? And you're going to like in a very positive way. We're doing it. Let's go quick. It's going to be 2 minutes, and they're going to come. And it doesn't have to be 2 minutes. It might be longer. It might be 2 minutes, but once they're there, they can usually get engaged in it. And I think these are very small things that are very important. Kids want to they want to be engaged. They want you to love them for who they are and recognize that it's okay that they're each not the same. We appreciate that. I would say. I love having the carpool mom who's on top of all the details, who reminds me and is on top and knows 5 years in advance that in 2 years it's going to be a problem. She has 3 kids and different things. And I'm like, my kids are like, what are we doing tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we're going to figure it out, right? Like, but when it comes to something spontaneous, so like I'm great and I have great ideas. And Hashem sets us up like this. This is Klal Yisrael. You have the guy who's an amazing fighter and the person who's great at intelligence. You have the person who can give a great drasha, and you have the person who is rallying the troops and people who like doing the details that I find to be so boring, but they love the details are like so beautiful to them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I have to like sit down for 1 more minute of writing a Shabbos menu, you know, but this is the godless. And if we could really look at the Seder is a night celebrating all of this, but it's all based on the relationship. We have to get there.
Right.
And it's
And
hard because we don't all value the same thing. And it's going to require a paradigm
right.
shift. And it's not b'diavad, but it will feel b'diavad because you're thinking, I'm not, this child's like, if I'm not holding them accountable and pushing them in a certain way, then they're never going to be the great person that you want them to be. But
Right. And I think it might be what I find, what I often tell parents as far as the Pesach Seder or even a Shabbos meal for in a much smaller way, but meaningful way nonetheless, is I ask them as follows. Okay, you got 3 children. your 11-year-old daughter has ADHD. What do you think her Pesach Seder is going to look like if she was in charge?
Ooh, what a wonderful
Try,
question.
that's right, Tom. Try to imagine how Atara would participate in a Seder if she was if she got to decide, or forget the, when people say there's stress at the Pesach Seder or there's stress at our Shabbos table, I ask them how the Hanukkah meals go. I say, how are you stressed when you get together for Hanukkah dinner? And nobody says,
Wow.
that's such a great time, sure. Well, so I say, why? Because the expectation is that we're going to come and hang out. The message there is that this is family time, and we'll enjoy our family time together. And you're not required to sit quietly. Nobody's going to get upset if somebody makes loud noises when somebody's spinning a dreidel, or doesn't sit still. But your expectation is that we're just going to have a great time together as a family. Now, we don't look at the Pesach Seder like that, but that better be a component, or your kids are going to have. You might find the 40-year-old with trauma going into a Seder because they're asked to stay up so long. Put a bean bag in the corner that kids can sit on and read a book.
Totally. Yeah.
Especially if by by your parents or in-laws, or you're at a larger setting. Just think of again, imagine that 11-year-old. What would they do if he or she had their own space? How would they like to participate? And kind of structure. Of course, they're not in charge, but understand what that would look like.
Right. Also, some kids like to prepare things in advance, and then maybe at the Seder it's harder to be as engaged. But if they are osake in advance, right, like that they feel that they've contributed so much, and you could highlight that, like, wow, you did that. So maybe at the Seder, they might not have as much of a role, but really you're expanding the Seder to include all the prep.
Or, I mean,
And
nothing to do with ADHD for a second. I mean, just parents, grandparents. I'm just making a suggestion to think about what Dr. Markowitz said about approaching that as an individual. Let's say you have a kid that doesn't like to show off in public.
yes,
Put out a microphone, they just grab it and they just get up there. And some people don't do that well. So you could get up and say, let's say, have your shy child come and tell you about Torah, and then you could say, you know, you know what Yitzi told me the other day that I thought was so beautiful, and you can say what that child said. Come sit down next to me and say, I want to tell everybody what you had to say that was so beautiful. So you can share the thought. My dear friend Rabbi Avi Shulman used to say that children will get up and put on a coat and wait in the street corner for a school bus to go to school, hoping somebody will mention their name once and have something nice to say for
mm,
themselves. So you can be a proxy. You can get up there and as a parent or grandparent or sibling, and say something for someone who won't be comfortable sharing it, but could do it nonetheless. How many kids that I have in my classes over the years that failed every single written test and scored 100% when they were tested individually and were allowed to just respond in words. So, just try to be creative and think of all of them as individuals. Um, that,
it's as MS as can be, because it's through the different ways in which they operate that they will succeed, and we're not always going to change that, right? But like they have what to offer. I think that's a brilliant idea. Small anecdote, but you have the simanim out. The more, if you have like a list of all of them, and then you want to put, something on top of it each time they show that, like, this is the different one that you're up to, and let the child know that they get to see time passing, since it's hard for them to have a sense of what time is. Let them come back and say, okay, you're going to mark. You see, now we did this one and we're up to the next one. And they get to see that it's not this endless, thing, but that there's a frame to it, and it is moving along.
right?
And
Like
that really helps.
Yom Kippur Master, like people want to just see the pages. How
Yes,
thick, how much
Yes, it's so true. But if you understand that, right, that you're taking someone who, if 1 minute feels like a 2 hours, right? But if you can show them the passage of time and that they have, it doesn't feel as, just imagine like this endless. That's the definition of overwhelmed. I have something to do. I don't know exactly what it is, and it's going to be for an indefinite amount of time. So you break this down, and it's just like, wow, that is like such a breath of fresh air. And again, I think also like they really don't remember it, and our job is to help ourselves. I give this example, even though it's not specific to the Seder, but right, one of the things that someone who maybe has executive functioning brain, it could be like trouble. It could translate into difficulties with the arousal, meaning falling asleep and then waking up,
Right.
right? And so, which could be very annoying for some people. It's awesome if you want to stay up late and stay in the base medrash, that's awesome. But then when you have to wake up the next morning, right, it could be very difficult. And it could be difficult even if you didn't stay up late.
Right.
It's like people have a harder time. So I say part of this is the more we come to understand each unique human being, whether it's a ADHD or not, call it whatever you want, different way that they're, and you come to own it and you say, I know that I have this difficulty. And chances are we need a little bit more support. Someone with ADHD can need more. I say the difference in shalom bias is that if a guy says, I know I have trouble waking up in the morning, I don't, if my wife tells me, Shlomi, you got to wake up. So then she's my mom. But if I know that I have trouble with this, and I say to my wife, Yael, I really, this is a thing that I'm struggling with. Would it be okay with you to do this? I'm okay with you doing this. I'm going to need that, but I'm owning that this is a challenge for me. I know that I'm going to succeed with support. Would you be okay with that? All of a sudden, the relationship changes. And so I think that adults and kids alike, the more we can empower them with the knowledge of how they operate, the more that they can find ways to rally the things around them to help them succeed. And I think the Seder is an awesome opportunity to see that Yiddishkeit has room for everybody.
Right.
And if we could be creative, if we could understand ourselves, like to be very compassionate. Okay, so I like singing more than I'm not going to give the Torah, but you're going to hear me three houses down
Right.
when we're up to the Chagaya.
And look at people. Some people are stimulated by an intellectual thought. Some people love to sing. Some people love to watch others sing, hear others sing. So, just and encourage the kids to be self-aware of what they like and what they don't, and have them participate as they can in a framework where they can make it more meaningful. Because you see, the adults get the luxury of um, picking what they do well in. Later on in life they're able to do that, so we just want to empower them to do that as children. Doctor, this is just one of a few. Miss Hashem, I really look forward to getting together with you after Yom Tov online and doing a few of these with parents in terms of education and supporting their children. Kosher ADHD, I could not more highly recommend the book to you. Doctor, you've done a tremendous service with the book together with Dr. Chesner, and you should
Very, very, very
amazing.
privileged to be a shaliach in this.
Chag Hashem,
Baruch Hashem.
and Dr. Andrew, my very best.
I will. Kasher v'sameach. Thank you so much, and continued hatzlacha in
You
doing
will.
all that you do.
I hope you found it helpful. Take care.
Yeah, thanks so much.